Hi guys, welcome to this video, and firstly I have to apologise. I actually lost all the footage of me working on my weeklies. So today is a bit different. I'm going to show you a flip through of my weekly pages, and then I'm going to give you a bit more of a detailed look at how I create my mind map portraits. This has been a request and I thought I'd go through and show you how I work on those coloured pencil drawings in my bullet journal. And just let me know if you prefer my weeklies done like this. So on the very first page I decided to work on a page that had dog breeds, the German dog breeds, the most famous ones that I think of when I think of Germany, and that is the miniature Schnauzer, the Dachshund, which I've been saying wrong for my entire life. I've been saying the Dachshund, it's actually Dachshund, and the German Shepherd. This next page I thought I would focus on the car brands, the amazing German engineering. You got brands like Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, BMW, Porsche, Audi, and I decided to draw the very first Benz, the three-wheeled automobile, and the VW Beetle. Really unhappy with how this page turned out. I actually hate it, but move on. This page is focusing on the university aspect of Germany. They are known for having a lot of free tuition in the public universities over there, and I love the thought of that. I wish I knew about that when I was studying. I would have loved to have traveled to Germany and studied abroad. It would have been amazing. And then for the final page, I decided to focus on New Year's Eve, which the Germans call Silvester. And I decided to do that at the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, where all the fireworks go above that gate. I like how this page turned out. It was probably the only one I was happy with, to be honest. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise that all the weeklies got deleted. So yeah, let me know what you think about the way I've done this, and if you want to see more like that, I can do my weeklies like that in the future. So now let's get on to talking a bit about how I create this mind map page with Heidi Klum, and I'll try and give you a little bit more in-depth look at how I create these portraits with my coloured pencils. So to start, I map out very gently with a pencil the outline of my face, where the eyes are going, the mouth and the nose, and a bit of the hairline, but just very lightly, because with coloured pencil they do tend to smear the lead from the pencil across it and it muddies your colours. So yeah, just do it very lightly and then rub it back with a kneadable eraser as well. Take as much away so you can just see a faint line of where you want to put your coloured pencil. So I'm starting with Heidi's skin, and to start I grab a white Prismacolor pencil and I'm running that all across the skin areas. Now if you're not sure why I actually do that, it's because when you have layers of pencils on top of each other and you get to the top layer, which is usually your darkest layer, and you want to bring back some lightness into it, you can actually use an electric razor to take away off those layers on top, and it reveals the bottom layer. So by laying that white down first, it actually allows you to peel back those layers at the end to reveal some highlights. After the white layer, then I go in with my next lightest shade for this particular skin tone, which I'm using light peach. I tend to always use light peach for Caucasian skins, especially fair ones like Heidi's, and that will go across everything. That gives us the basis to work from, and then we can build the shades and the tones in on top of that. In terms of the strokes, I tend to use back and forth motions, and if I'm going one way, then I'll come the other way, like cross-hatching, and go over the top, so that you're not getting that streakiness of it. You're covering all the streaks up, you're making it a one flat color. So you can also do this by doing little mini circles. I'm always pressing very gently. The key to colored pencils is work in layers, so each layer should be gentle. Try not to press too hard, because that's going to press the tooth of the paper down, and then you won't be able to build up those layers and depth of color. After doing that first layer of the light peach, I go in with a slightly darker peach color all around the next mid-tones in the skin. I actually couldn't find my peach this time, so I'm using a Nectar Prismacolor pencil, which is slightly pinkier, but that worked for her skin tone anyway, so I wasn't too phased. If I was doing this as a commissioned portrait, I would work a lot more on the skin, obviously, and build those layers until there's no paper showing through at all. But in my journal, I don't mind too much having it not look like a photo. I just want it to be realistic, but not too out there. And you'll never hide those dots on the paper anyway, so I just feel like it's, you know, it's inevitable that you're gonna see that this is a drawing on top of your bullet journal, which I kind of like anyway. It gives it that effortless vibe. After doing all those sort of mid-tones around the skin, I go in with a sort of a grayish, deep pinky purple flesh tone. It's called Clay Rose. I really like this one for a little bit more shadows. So just adding that depth into any areas that I see on my photo reference that have that darker shade. I very rarely use black in my shadows because that will just be too harsh. I do tend to use it around the eyes though, because especially with women, we tend to have, black eyelashes with our makeup. So I do tend to use black around there, but otherwise I keep them quite warm tones whenever I'm using skin. It'll either be a darker shade of a grayish brown or these kind of pinky hues. Once I've laid down those tones now that I've got the depth in the areas that I need it, I go in again with my light peach and smooth it all out. So that's what's awesome about Prismacolor pencils. They're a wax-based pencil, so when you blend layer upon layer and blend colors together, they just merge nicely. They kind of become all, waxy and creamy and can merge together. And so that's what smooths out all the natural bumps that you get on paper when you're working with colored pencil. So that disappears because of the wax spreading it into each other. And I often use white as a blending tool. So I'll use the white and it kind of makes a really soft transition across all the skin. So I'd use white or the light peach. And then if anything looks too saturated or too vibrant, I'll use this sort of a pale gray tone. That also helps to add some shadows as well. It's called putty beige, and I love this kind of gray because it's a very soft shade of gray and it can really make some soft shadows across your page. I'm actually using it as almost the outline of the eye as well. When you look closely at an eyeball, the eyeball the eyeball is not completely white. It sort of has a shadow on it. So this gray is great for adding that shadow into the eyes. And then I'm also using it around the hairline where the hair falls on the face. When I'm looking at a reference photo, I guess I'm so practiced at it now that I see the colors that I need in my eye before I even kind of pick the pencils. I guess the way I do this is by really studying my reference photo, working out the base color that is, the majority of the skin might be, a very pale Caucasian skin, so it's that light peachy tone. And then if I see any shadows, I'll try and really look at those shadowed areas. I'll try and isolate them, maybe put a white piece of paper next to the area you're looking at and work out whether it's a warmer shade or whether it's cooler. It all depends on where the photo's lighting is from. I know that it helps me by closing one eye when I'm trying to figure out a color. If I close the one eye, I don't know if it maybe gets rid of the depth of your vision and you're just kind of seeing quite flat. That always helps me. But yeah, I tend to choose the tones based on the image reference. If that isolated color was a colored pencil, what would it be? And then I'll try and mix the colors together if it's not one obvious color, which it usually isn't. And that's why building those layers with the peach and then the gray and then you might add a little touch of a purpley shade if it's got that coolness to it. And sometimes it's like a reddy shade. I'll just kind of work in layers and you can generally get the right color eventually. So now here I'm finally getting my black pencil out to do the eyelashes around the eye. Like I said, this is the one place that I might use black and it always gives quite a striking eye. I find that in my mind map pictures in my journal, I don't mind adding some real strength to the eyes because I feel like that's the focus of my portraits anyway. And I just think it really kind of brings the viewer into your piece. So I'll always pay close attention to the eyes. Having said that, I do find that Heidi's eyes in this shot were very unusually lit because they had this really strong ring light highlight through the iris, which made it difficult to make look that realistic. But because I was going for that kind of angelic vibe anyway, it didn't matter. But yeah, in my other portraits, you might find that I spend a lot more time on making them a little bit more realistic. With the irises, I will never use just one color. You'll find so many colors in people's irises if you look really close. That's why I love drawing them so much, I think, because they're so beautifully unique. So Heidi's eyes, I think, are like a hazily green. So So I'm using at least 3 different colored pencils to get those eyes to work. I'm still not overly happy with them. They're not as realistic as what I feel I can portray. But I've done like a brown on the very outer rim, and then a yellowy green for the majority of the eye, always leaving that bright white highlight around the pupil. And then I go in and sort of make it a little bit brownier by adding like a warm honey sort of toned brown. Can't remember the exact pencils I use, I'm sorry. But yeah, any of those kind of colors would make that eye color feel a little bit more realistic. Once the eyes are in, then you can see how strong you need to go on the rest of the face. I found that I needed more blush once I'd had the eyes on, so I'm adding a pinky tone into the cheek area, and that's really when the picture starts to come to life. I think once you've got the eyes in, you can really build the strength in other areas. I generally use about 2 or 3 different shades of a pinky red for lips. If they're more skin based, I'll go peachier to match the skin, but in this case she had lipstick on anyway, so I was using quite a strong reddish pink. And then I always leave room for highlight because that is where the dimension is going to be added. So usually in that center of the bottom lip is where you'll see this nice highlight. So I just always kind of go around that area, or if I happen to go across it, I'll just erase it with my electric eraser after and bring back that highlight. Now, as for teeth, I always find these the trickiest part of any portrait. I feel like it's where you can either really make or break a portrait. So what I have learnt about doing teeth is never really draw the full line between each individual tooth. I always start with this little triangle shape at the top to show the gums, and then I'll do the base of the tooth using this pale grey. And just map out the shape at the bottom, and it's just going to be this faint line that comes down to the middle to separate them. And then as they go back and recede into the mouth, I'll sometimes add some shading of that same light grey onto the back teeth. And otherwise, I mean, Heidi's teeth were extremely white and straight. She is a supermodel, so I pretty much left them as they were. I didn't bother with any shading. And then just adding in the shadows beneath the teeth where it's almost black in the mouth, and that just gives you that depth as well. Here's where I actually use my electric eraser that I've mentioned a few times. It's got a very tiny little eraser tip on it that's replaceable, and that's how I get my little highlights down the center of the nose and sometimes in the eyes and then along the lips as well. Very handy tool to have if you work with these pencils. So I'll leave a link to everything if you need to find anything down in the description box. The pencils, I live by these Prismacolor Premier pencils, and I love that electric eraser. Can't go past it. And then once I've gone over everything and added extra color where I think I needed it, I just take a look back at your overall picture and decide where it needs to be darker. And so on. And then I go ahead and bring out my Pigma Micron to outline the hair. So my portraits, if I was doing a commission, obviously I would probably do them all in pencil, like the hair included. That takes a lot more time. So in my bullet journal, I prefer to go for more of a graphic approach, and I use my fine liners to outline the hair and fill in the shadows with that strong black. I quite like the contrast between the pencil part and then the graphic marker part. And then after I've done the Pigma Micron, I also add that into the lashes because, like I said, I love the eyes to be the focus point, and they really work for adding real bold depth into the eyelashes. So I add all that, and then I go in with my markers to finish off the colouring of the hair. The markers I chose were just 3 different shades of yellow. I didn't want them to be a bold, vibrant sunshine yellow, so I did actually have to go in and steal one of my daughter's goldy kind of yellows, which is this one here. So that's from Typo, which I have a feeling is only Australian, but the other ones I use with the white barrels on them. They're Ohuhu. They're all water-based markers, so they're fine in your journal. If I could use alcohol-based markers in a journal, God, that would be the best because you can blend those together really nicely. But obviously water-based markers, they do not blend, so you have to do a different kind of approach to the colouring. So here I just did very basic streaks of colour. I wasn't phased about making it realistic at all. Mind you, I couldn't help myself by adding pencil to it. I don't normally do this in my mind map portraits, but I think it was bothering me. It just wasn't looking like hair enough. So I did add some of a gold Prismacolor pencil and then a darker sort of brownie tone just to bring some of that gold life into the hair. And now I'm using my Signo Uniball broad gel pen in white so that I can add in some further highlights throughout the hair. And I always tend to use my gel pen as well on top of my colored pencil. So if there's any highlights that didn't quite get enough brightness, then I'll go over the top with my gel pen, and that usually lifts it off the page and yeah, makes it really striking. And then my portraits are never complete in my journal without adding the beautiful gold gel pen that I absolutely love. It's the same brand, Signo Ball Pen Broad, and I love this gold pen, so I use it wherever I can. And on this particular spread, it was perfect for her angelic crown or tiara. And then I also added it as her gold cape thing that's falling over her shoulder. And then I was finished with the portrait, and I just went ahead and added my washi tape in the background and a few gold sparkles everywhere. And then that is how I created my mind map portrait of Heidi Klum in my setup this December. So I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully there was a few tips that you were able to pick up. If not, I will probably keep doing some of these across my channel if you like them. If you do, please let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like the video so that I can see that this is working for you guys. And then subscribe to my channel if you're new here. I would love to welcome you to the community. And if you want to share it with a friend who you think would be interested in learning a bit about colored pencil drawing, or they just love Heidi Klum or whatever, that would be great. And so thanks for stopping by, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.